We consider multivariate response where at least one response is timed to event. Consider PBC data. Please see the chapter 7, page 206 for more details. First, we fit joint model for the logarithm of serum bilirubin at jet visits for YIG and the time to event TI of the 8th patient. The event time is coded as years with status, which is coded as death for the interesting event 140, transplant for the competing events 29, and live for censoring 143. Visiting years, sex, and drug are used as covariate for YIG. Besides, sex and drug are used as covariate for TI. And these figures represent the path diagram for a joint model of repeat measures and competing event on BBC data. You see, we have year, sex, drug, the logarithm of serum bilirubin, and there is the competing event time. We have lambda E1 as the type of event, death, and lambda I2 as the type 2 event, transplant, and its random effect V. For each patient, we have their medical records and survival data. Thus, it is natural to consider combined analysis. For YIG, consider a linear mixed model. YIG is linear mixed model. We have X1 IG transpose beta plus VI plus EIG, with the X1 IG transpose are covariates. Therefore, VI follow normal distributions with mean 0 and variance sigma V square, and IIG follows normal distributions with mean 0 and variance sigma E square. For TI, consider the cause-specific hazard variety model. Given a shared log variety Vi, the conditional hazard functions lambda ek for the 8 patients that fail from the cause k is given by these equations. We have lambda I1 and lambda 2i, where the lambda 0 kp is an unsupervised baseline hazard functions for cause k, and delta k is the regression parameter of cause k. It is interesting to have analysis of data from several time, medical data, genetic data, MRI and PAT data, etc. It is easy to extend an XGLM to the search model. It is your topic, and we can do the experiment. Open the Albatros. Select the serum creatinine data or SCR. This dataset from the clinical study to investigate the chronic renal allograft dysfunctions in renal transplants. The renal functions is evaluated from the serum creatinine as SCR values. Since the time interval between the quantitative measurements differs from patients to patients, we focus on the mean creatinine levels over 6 months. A graft loss time is observed from each patient. During the study period, there were 13 graft losses due to the kidney dysfunctions. For other remaining patients, we assume that the censorings occurred at the last follow-up times about 88%. The variable including ID, the visiting time, serum creatinine values, genders 1 for male and 0 for female, the age of patients, reciprocal of serum creatinine values, graft loss time, censoring indicators 1 for the occurrence and 0 for censoring. Broadly speaking, we are interested in investigating the effect of covariate over the response from the SCR values and a graft loss time. Following Ha et al. In 2003, consider month, sex, and age as covariate for SCR. Also, they consider sex and age as covariates for the loss time. We consider the standard mixed linear model. We use 1 per SCR as response for YIG. Besides, these diagrams represents the path diagram for the joint model for repeated measures and survival time. Focus on joint model. For the 1 per SCR values, considers a linear mixed models given by these questions. We have YIG as linear mixed model, where the XIG are covariate. VI1 follow normal distributions with mean 0 and variance sigma V1 square, and IIG follow normal distributions with mean 0 and variance sigma E square. For the graph loss time, TI, consider a variety model with the conditional hazard functions given by lambda TI with conditions V1I, where the lambda 0T is the baseline hazard function, and X2I are between subject covariates, and gamma is the share parameter. Following by Ha et al. In 2003, consider a Weibull model for the baseline hazard function when the lambda 0 Ti with the step parameter tau. Also, we can fit the non-parametric baseline hazard model. The values of CIC show that non-parametric baseline hazard model is preferred to the Weibull baseline hazard model. We can fit two random effect models separately with L and M and following variety model. We have YIG, where X1IG are covariate. V1I follow normal distribution with mean 0 and variance sigma V1 square, and IIG follow normal distribution with mean 0 and variance E square. The CIC can be computed by adding CIC from two models. We can see that joint models are preferred to corresponding separate models. Click multiple response analysis. For response variable, select the ICR, the independent variable month, sex, and age. Random effect ID and click run. And we will get our model. This is the coefficients for all the variables: month, sex, age, sex1, h1. And also we have the estimated values from phi, alpha, rho respectively. Click the random effect interference to see the plot of our morning checking plot. And to survival, select the Weibull to see the comparison. Also, I changed the correlation structures independent. The model will be changed. AIDS. The data were collected in the recent clinical trial to compare the efficacy and safety of two antiretroviral drugs in the treating patients who had failed or were intolerant of zidovudine or AZT therapy. 467 XIV infected patients were enrolled and randomly assigned to receive either didance-ozint or DDI and zalcitabine or DDC. The number of CD4 cells per millimeter cubic of blood were recorded at study entry, and again at the 2, 6, 12, 18th month visits. Times to death were also recorded with a 40% censoring rate. And this is our variable. We have patients, time, date, CD4, month, drug, gender, proof of I, AZT, start, stop, event, and Y. Following by Rizopoulos in 2015, consider a joint model for the square root of CD4 values YIG for the jet visits and the time to date TI of the 8th patient. We consider month and drug as covariate for YIG and drug for TI. Therefore, this figure represents the path diagram for the joint model for repeated measures and survival times on AIDS data. Joint model for the response YIG, consider a linear mixed model. We have YIG, where X1 IG are covariate. VI1 follow normal distributions with mean 0 and variance sigma V1 square, and IIG follow normal distributions with mean 0 and variance sigma E square. For the death time, TI, consider a variety model with the conditional hazard functions, where the lambda 0 t is the baseline hazard function, x2 t are between subject covariates, and gamma is the search parameter. Following by Rizopoulos 2015, consider a Weibull model for the baseline hazard functions where lambda 0 ti, tau, t squared, tau minus 1 with a step parameter tau. We can also fit a non-parametric baseline hazard models. The values of CIC show that the Weibull baseline hazard functions is preferred to the non-parametric baseline hazard function. And sums like previous example, we have the separate models. We can fit random effect models separately with following variety model. Open the albatross. Browse the age data, H2, interesting time, selects the drug, random effect patients, cancering indicator, that model for baseline hazard is the semi-parametric. For response 1, the response variable, Y, select month, drug as independent variable, random effect patient, click run. And we will get our model summary for coefficients all of variables. Click random effect inference to see the scatter plot or modding checking plots for mean. And move to next example. The variable including the ID, serum bilirubin, Y, years, status, year, drug, 1 for the penicillamine and 0 for drug, sex, the gender for 1 male and 0 for female. For joint models, seems like previous example. The estimate of search parameters gamma 1 hat is 1.2 and gamma 2 hat is 1.1, show a positive associations between 1 IG and 2 events. The visiting year effect for YIG is positively very significant. The effect of drug is not significant for YIG and for that event, but it is negatively significant for transplant event. The effect of sex is positively significant for YIG and for that event, but it is not significant for transplant event. However, when we fit the competing risk model for TI, removing response YIG, the effect of drug is not significant for transplant event. Open laboratories analytics. Select PBC 2, page 260. For interesting event, survival time, select years. Select drug, sex. For independent variable, random effects ID, censoring indicator, status, censoring value 1, model for baseline hazard semi-parametric. For event 2, click use, censoring indicator status, censoring value 2, the survival time, years, selects drug and sex as independent, random effect ID. For response 1, click response variable Y, select independent variable year, drug, sex. Random effect ID and click run. And we will get the model summary of coefficients parameters: intercept, months, drug, DDI, and DDI1. Also, the estimates values for V1, V2, row 1 H and row 2 H respectively. And click the random effect inference to see the modification plot for mean. This is the end of chapter 9.